thank you all for coming in today. I'm so happy that you could join me. This is a topic that I feel very passionately about, and I hope that you enjoy the research and the applications of mindset as much as I do. What I'm ideally hoping for you for the end of this presentation is that you'll be able to take some of the things that we've discussed today and apply them to your own lives. So how can you live to your fullest potential with a better understanding of mindset, both academically, professionally, or even in your relationships? I want to start off with a quote that Carol Dweck had mentioned in her book, Mindset. Becoming is better than being. Hold on to that throughout the next hour or so, and I'll invite you later on to just share with me what you think about that quotation. So what are you going to learn about today? Well, you're going to learn about mindsets. There are two of them. You'll learn about Carol Dweck. She actually is the researcher behind much of this theory. You're going to discuss with me the research associated with mindset. And again, we're going to talk about how this applies to your own life. That is the most important part. Consider and respond. Are people born smart? No, they're not. So we're born to learn, right? Yeah. We're born to learn. We come into this world exploring and investigating our environments, and we do it joyfully, willingly, happily. Do we all stay that way? No. Psychologists might have an answer. Psychologists, some of them, believe mindset has a lot to do with why we lose that hunger or that desire. What is a mindset? Well, simply put, it's a pattern or governing principles that determine how you perceive your world, how you perceive yourself, how you behave. And your mindset is so ingrained in your internal dialogue that perhaps until this moment, you weren't even aware that it existed. One of the pioneers of mindset, Carol Dweck, or as we know it, as we're discussing it today. She is a psychologist, a researcher, and author at Stanford University. Her interests include intelligence, but more importantly, our self-view of intelligence, our perception of how competent we are from an intellectual standpoint. And what's great about her work is that it takes really complex ideas associated with neuroscience and developmental psychology and education. And she makes it digestible, easy to understand. What are your aspirations? Is there something that you want to progress in? Is there something, a skill, that you would like to develop? What's going to happen to you if you experience a setback on your pursuit? What happens when somebody criticizes you? Think about it. Perhaps you are not psychic and you do not know how you will face these things. That's okay. Your mindset may determine the answers to these questions. So, let's do a little self-assessment. I'm really just going to ask you two questions. These questions come from Dweck's mindset scale. And if you'd like to take the entire assessment, you can do so online, mindsetonline.com. Number 1, to be honest, you can't really change how intelligent you are. To be honest, you can't really change how intelligent you are. Do you agree or do you disagree with that? Disagree? Okay. Anybody agree? It's okay if you do. All right. Next one. To be honest, you can't really change how talented you are. Disagree? Think about talent. What do you think? Can you change that? For those of us who agreed to both of those questions, it's quite possible you have a fixed mindset. And that's okay. We're going to talk about how to change that this afternoon. But a fixed mindset means that you believe intelligence and talent are inborn, that you only have a certain amount of intelligence and there's not much else you can do to change it. And as a result, it leads you to a desire to look or appear smart or intelligent. You may avoid situations that don't show your best energy or your best. Someone with a growth mindset believes that intelligence and talent can be cultivated. You can improve. You can learn in increments. And this leads us to a desire to learn. Think about it for a minute. Many of us focus on what we don't have or what we can't do. How many times have you heard somebody say, I can't do math, I'm just not a math person? A lot. I can't do this psychology course. Nobody in this room, right? But we hear it all the time. You perhaps may have been engaged in similar statements. I'm terrible at job interviews. Guess what, guys? Nobody was born with the ability to do calculus. Nobody came out of the womb talking about their higher ability, right? You learn, you practice, you get better. Was there ever something that you were really bad at that you worked on and you got better? Think about it. Individuals who have growth mindset take the plunge. They work hard, they go for it. And they also make edits and revisions to what they're doing when necessary. So, your mindset matters, and it matters because it impacts the way you interpret your experiences. It matters because it impacts the way you interpret your relationships, your academics, your vocational choices. And depending on whether or not you have fixed or growth mindset, you're going to explore challenges, setbacks, and criticism, as well as the success of others, differently. So somebody in a fixed mindset is going to see a challenge and say, what? I can't do it. I don't think I can. They won't even try. They avoid the challenge. Somebody in a growth mindset, what do you guys think they might do? Embrace it. Try it out. Fall down if they have to. When setbacks and obstacles come into play, the person with fixed mindset does what? They give up. They relent. This is too hard. Growth mindset person, what do? They persist. Madison? They try again. Try, and try again. When an individual who has growth mindset receives criticism, what do you think they do with it? Change the way they are. Think about it a little bit, right? They think about it and they say, maybe there's something to what this person is saying. Maybe they're trying to help me. How can I grow from this criticism? How can I improve? Fixed mindset person, how are they perceiving criticism? Madison? Yeah, they might get defensive. They're not comfortable with criticism, right? They want to look smart. That becomes the task for people who have fixed mindset. They want to show the world how smart they are. Somebody with growth mindset, they understand that it takes practice to be smart in certain areas. So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think about the success of others? What do people with fixed mindset perceive that as?
Their own failure.
Their own failure. So, I'm not good enough. This is a threat to me. And if you're in growth mindset, what are you thinking? Yeah, it's inspiring. Go ahead, Savannah.
Oh no, I was agreeing with what you were saying.
Yeah, it's inspiring, and you think, I could probably learn a lot from this individual, right? So you celebrate the successes of others. I want you to remember that life is full of challenges and setbacks and criticism. It just is. And so if we can adopt a growth mindset, we're going to cope with these things in much different ways, right? So, this is not a pretty picture. Are any of you familiar with what this is? Literally, it's a dryer. But it's a dryer of Sidney Crosby. Do you all know who he is? Sidney Crosby, hockey player. Greatest hockey player of all time, maybe. I don't know. But he's pretty good. And this dryer is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And when they asked him about it, he said, this dryer really represents all of my failures. He wasn't shooting into the dryer, he was shooting elsewhere. Every time he missed the net, he hit the dryer. His mom wasn't very impressed with this, naturally. But needless to say, even people who are at the top of their game made mistakes. Think about Einstein. Was Einstein as notable as he was at first? No, lots of effort and energy, right? LeBron James, he's a pretty good basketball player, sort of. And yet, I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, he went out and he hired someone to help him play a position that he doesn't even play, so that he could learn the game better. So here he is at the top of his game, the top of this sport, and he's still trying to grow. He's still trying to improve. Walt Disney was told he wasn't creative. What do you think about that? You've seen his films. And what happened to Michael Jordan? Anybody know? He got cut from his high school varsity team. He wasn't going to be good enough. And what did he do? He practiced. And who did he become? The greatest basketball player of all time. Forget about LeBron. Yeah, because life is about obstacles and setbacks and criticism. But you still have to persist, right? So let's talk about some of the research associated with mindset. Carol Dweck and her colleagues conducted various studies. I'm going to only share a few with you. But what I want you to take note of is the fact that we see mindset, these two separate entities, fixed and growth, very, very early on in development. So preschoolers with a fixed mindset will do the same jigsaw puzzle over and over and over again. And when we ask them if they'd like to try a more difficult puzzle, they say, nah, no thanks. I'll keep doing this. Children with growth mindset are happy to take on the challenge. Ooh, something new, something more difficult. They're all for it. In another study, they took 500 students and they looked at them as they transitioned into middle school. Middle school is a good time, right? Times are tough. It's a big transition for kids. And they looked at their math achievement scores, and the children who they chose were all pretty much in the same place. Then they tested them for their mindset. And what did they find? As children faced the challenges of this new, more intense academic setting, the kids with the growth mindset, their math scores improved. Children with the fixed mindset, what do you think happened? You know where I'm going with this, right? They declined. And so as the years progressed, the gap got more and more significant, right? And it's all about mindset. In another group, they took fifth graders, another study I should say, they took fifth graders and they put them into two groups. They gave them questions that would be similar to what would go on an IQ test, and they asked them to work through them. One group of students was told, wow, your score was really great. You must be smart at that. The other group of students were told, wow, your scores are really great. You must have worked hard on that. What happened? Well, interestingly enough, we started to see a gap again. We influenced, in many ways, their mindset. And so now, the kids who were praised for being smart, they no longer wanted to try challenging tasks. They were good enough where they were. They were comfortable with that. What's even more interesting about these results is the fact that the children at the end of the study were asked to write letters to other children who were going to be working on these problems. And in their letters, there was a little space for them to write their scores. What they found was that 40% of the children who were praised for their intelligence inflated their scores. whereas 13% of the others inflate. That's a big difference. So what was going on here? What do you guys think? Any type of error, right, made them uncomfortable. So now they had to be just a little smarter. Even if it meant lying. Think about that. That's intense. These are 5th graders. Mindset matters. So what about college students? There are a variety of studies associated with mindsets and college students. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you was something I read on Stanford's website. And basically what happened was Dweck decided that she was going to create a course with the underlying theme being mindset. And students had to apply to be a part of this course. 100 students applied, 16 got in. And while she was reading their letters, she decided that she was going to choose the students who emphasized their effort and their motivation to be in this program. So she set aside the students who were talking about their academics and their intelligence. They had a very enjoyable time. She had a lot of students who were growth mindset in her class. But what she reports is that at the end of, or actually at the middle of the semester, students started getting overwhelmed with what? Midterms. And they had a discussion about it. And what the students said was, well, you know what? Maybe we just haven't learned how to be college students yet. Think about that. Is that something that you have to learn how to do? How many of you are in your first year? Perfect. So then think back to your first year. Was it something that you had to learn to get comfortable with? Yeah, right? It's new. Every new experience is an experience in which you can grow. So a little bit on your brain and mindset. When you learn new things, you create new pathways in your brain. That's good news. And easy tasks are boring because they don't enhance brain development. This picture comes from a study that was conducted on college students at Columbia University. They were given the mindset scale. They were hooked up to EEG machines. And then they were asked to do some difficult tasks on the computer. Their brain waves were measured. Individuals in a fixed mindset showed activity or interest or attention when they were being told how well they did. They were interested in finding out what their score was. They want confirmation. Here I am, I'm at Columbia. Am I smart? Right? They were looking for that confirmation. When they were offered criticism or some ideas to help them improve, no brain activity. There was no interest there. There was brain activity, but there was no interest there, right? Those with growth mindset were more interested, according to these brain waves, when they were learning how they could improve their scores for the next time. So, how empowering is this? This idea or this notion that the growth of our brains is in our own hands. We just have to open ourselves up to new learning opportunities. Where do you think this all comes from? This mindset stuff, this lack of desire to learn new things or to stay where you are so that you can be perceived as intelligence. What are the roots of mindset? Yeah, go ahead. Blaming parents?
Well, like teaching what kind of morals, I guess, or values, maybe that will affect your mindset.
Okay, so they're teaching you certain values. All right. Yeah. So what do parents say to their children when they do new and important tasks? They encourage them. Wow, you're brilliant. And then they're calling up grandma or grandpa. My child is a genius. So smart. And why do parents do this stuff? They're proud, they're happy. They want you to feel good, right? But they're forgetting something. They're forgetting to praise the effort. And so what happens is kids no longer want to try because they want to be the soccer star. Ooh, they're not going to try out for the other league because they're good on this team with the smaller kids. They want to continue to look brilliant. And they begin to look at the world in regard to what makes them look smart and what makes them look stupid. And who wants to feel stupid? What do you do? How do you resolve this? So Dweck recommends sitting at the table with your children and asking, and these are her words, them, what type of challenge did you have today? What incredible setback did you have today? And how did you get through it? How did you persevere? What is that doing? That's reinforcing the fact that it's okay to have challenges. It's normal. It's healthy. And that there are ways to approach setbacks or criticism, right? And that you can learn from those experiences. Now that you've learned about mindset and what the two types of mindset are, things that you can do to combat a fixed mindset, because we all fall into the trap, right? Do something outrageously growth mindset, something that makes you uncomfortable. Walk into the fire. Let them film your lecture. But think about that for a moment. What can you do that is outrageously growth? Think about it and then just do it. Just do it. And it might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but embrace the struggle. You have to embrace the struggle. Easy learning isn't always the best, deepest type of learning. And of course, you'll want to acknowledge the power of yet. This is one of Dweck's famous lines. There are a lot of things you don't know or you can't do yet. But with a growth mindset, you have the tools necessary to embrace the struggle. You have to practice, though. You have to practice talking back to fixed mindset. It's not something that just happens overnight. And there are some areas in which we are really fixed, and there are other areas in which we're more willing to grow. So recognize that within yourself as well. So I have a question for you. Is effortlessness simply an illusion? What do you think about that? Is effortlessness just an illusion? Yeah, when people make things look really easy, a lot of times it's because they've worked hard to get to that point where it looks effortless. It looks natural. It looks really comfortable for them, right? So, is becoming better than being? Taking on that challenge, taking the risks, being uncomfortable. Because what happens when you get to where you want to go? You're on to the next thing. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say.
Same thing?
Yeah.
You guys are on the same wavelength. Thank you all so much for coming. And please remember the quote. Becoming is better than being. And have a really awesome afternoon, too. Thank you.